I'm Ice Cold Snake, and welcome to Games We Skip, the series where we take a look at the games that flew under the radar and went mostly forgotten. These games ended up overlooked by many, including me. But now, years later, I'm diving back in to see what we all missed. And that brings us to Inversion, a third-person shooter from 2012. Published by Bandai Namco and developed by Saber Interactive, the developers behind the recent mega hit Space Marine 2, Inversion promised gravity-defying combat, environmental destruction, and an innovative cover system, but ultimately became another title in the endless wave of games that slipped through the cracks. So, after finally playing it after 13 years, did we make the right choice in skipping it, or did we overlook a hidden gem? Let's find out. And because this game is 13 years old, there are going to be spoilers in this video. If you enjoy these kinds of videos, please consider hitting the like button, subscribing for more videos, and you can support the channel by becoming a channel member for only $1 a month. Inversion is a third-person cover-based shooter. By 2012, third-person cover-based shooter mechanics had already been overused and grown stale. Games really needed to focus on additional mechanics in order to stand out from the crowd. Some games, like Sega's Vanquish, stand out for making the movement between cover as vital to combat as the core gameplay loop of popping up and shooting enemies from behind cover. Inversion's feature to set itself apart and advertised right there on the cover art is the ability to manipulate gravity. Throughout the game, you'll make use of the GravLink device to affect the gravity of enemies and objects. You'll face encounters against enemies on different gravitational planes, and you'll get to interact with some zero-G combat and platforming sections. We take control of generic scowling protagonist Davis Russell, a cop from Vanguard City. Davis's Hispanic partner, Leo Delgado, serves as the co-op partner, sort of like Dom Santiago. Unfortunately, that's where the comparison ends because Dom actually, has a personality. When Vanguard City is suddenly attacked by a heavily armed barbaric force known as the Lutadors, the duo set out to find and save Davis's family. Unfortunately, Davis's wife is killed in the initial attack, and his daughter Layla has gone missing, presumably captured by the Lutadors. Davis's entire motivation becomes finding Layla, and Leo tags along because they're partners, and that's just what partners do. Leo has no backstory, he has no character traits, he has no personality, and he has no motivations. But those things don't really matter when you have a big gun, a whole lot of anger, and an army of brutes to murder. As the pair fight through the Lutadors to find Layla and save the world, they uncover an incredible secret about Vanguard City.
Hope can play tricks on you. And so it turns out, can those that you truly trust.
On release, Inversion received review scores of around 5s and 6s. IGN gave it a 5.5, noting Inversion is a disparate collection of ideas grouped around the conceit of gravity. Some are more fleshed out than others, but none are executed to their fullest potential. GameSpot gave it a 4 out of 10, stating Inversion isn't clever in the slightest, and the critics just really didn't enjoy Inversion, and they told the players to stay away. Which, of course, just means that the people that really did enjoy Inversion just think that the reviewer is a bad reviewer, as evidenced by the cesspool that is the comment section on the GameSpot review site.
And you know what? We might as well cue up the donkey quote now.
A great man once said, if you sneak up on me once, Al, I'll fucking kill you with a wrench.
I think that's the wrong quote.
To this day, Steam reviews sit at only about 60% positive, leading to a mixed rating on the platform. The main takeaway is that Inversion is one of those middle-of-the-road games where some people are gonna love it and some people are gonna hate it. So what is it really like? Well, the best way to describe it is that for every point in Inversion's favor, there will be at least one negative to offset it. And I guess we should start by talking about the performance. The PC version crashes a lot. And by a lot, I mean it crashes all the fucking time. It crashes when you boot it up. It crashes when you save. It crashes when you enter a checkpoint. It crashes when you leave a checkpoint. The most difficult boss in the entire game is the fucking reload checkpoint button. Every time I died, I would clench my butt cheeks and say a fucking prayer that I wouldn't crash. And to be fair, this is a 13-year-old game, and outside of the crashing, it holds up pretty well. There are very few frame rate drops. There's no bugs that I can really speak of, except that it doesn't have an option in the settings for VSync. I had to go into my NVIDIA control panel to force VSync at the graphics card level to get through the awful screen tearing. Speaking of graphics, honestly, the game just looks incredible. I played this on PC running maxed out at 1440p. Even looking at footage from the PS3 version, the game still looks pretty good. I find it hard to believe that this came out during the 7th generation. I don't think there's a single person who would say that the character models look realistic, but they still surprisingly hold up pretty well. And definitely one of the best parts about this game are the boob jiggle physics. Welcome back everyone who was just listening without actually watching the video. You can now click the like button and subscribe for more content. The destructible environments are believable and are satisfying as hell to witness. The entire package just ends up looking better than many games that have been released in the 13 years since Inversion launched. It has that sort of visual style to it that will mean it won't immediately fall prey to the passage of time. In terms of the audio, the only bad thing I can say about Inversion is that I never noticed the music, so I guess that's a bad sign. The sound effects are fine. The voice acting is terrible, but it does really help sell that sort of B-movie vibe that the entire game has going for it.
Yeah, so listen, this is where we split up. Thanks again. Couldn't have got out of there without you.
Are you crazy? I'm going with you. I'm gonna go find your daughter.
No, I'll move faster on my own.
Like hell you will. You just said so yourself. You couldn't have got out there on your own. Now you're thinking of going in there solo? No, we're partners.
You sure about this?
No, not really. But I got your back.
As for the gameplay, Inversion is a third-person cover shooter with a gravity mechanic. The game plays very much like Gears of War, a comparison that's drawn on many times over and over by every critic and reviewer. And that's not the dig that some people might think it is. Actually, it's a compliment. The tightness of the combat and the control over the character is something Gears of War really nailed down, and Saber Interactive was able to do much of the same here. If you've played Gears, you'll immediately feel at home as you battle through the Lutadors to find Layla. From snapping the cover, flanking the enemy, and sprinting between cover positions, it all feels the way that you know it should. Other than the fact that they put the reload button on Y. Who the fuck thought that was a good idea? But as I said, for every positive point, there's at least one negative to offset it. When you want to lean out of cover on the left side, the camera doesn't swap to the left shoulder. Instead, Davis completely exits the cover before you're fully aimed in over his right shoulder. Look back over at Gears of War and you'll see the camera swaps to the left shoulder, a much more natural position for the player to expect to be shooting from. While on the topic of Gears of War, one thing Gears did well is allowing you to choose which direction to aim out from a low cover. If you want your character to aim over the top of a wall, you hold up on the left stick while aiming. If you want to pop out around the side, you hold in that direction instead. But Inversion doesn't do this. Davis will always aim over the top of any low cover object, and this just feels wrong. And when something feels wrong, it sticks with the player. Objectively, this also means that you're sometimes forced into a dangerous position when all you want to do is aim off to the side to pick off one enemy at a time. Now, I saw a few reviews saying that the addition of gravity mechanics didn't amount to anything meaningful. I have to somewhat disagree with that. The gravity manipulation during combat was definitely one of the weakest parts for sure. The grav link attached to Davis's back can be used to reduce the gravity at the target. It will raise enemies from their cover positions and can be used to grab flying objects to hurl at enemies. The game places a lot of instances where you need to use the grav link as part of a very basic puzzle for picking up an object and hurling it at enemies or at obstacles. It's really satisfying when you throw a car at a wave of charging enemies and you get to splatter them all. If you can land a hit with the incredibly unforgiving hitbox, you can also grab the floating enemies from afar, pulling them in and performing a melee execution. Once you figure this out, encounters against shielded or berserking enemies becomes pretty trivial. You'll use this ability against a few of the bosses as well, sometimes to throw objects and other times to make lava float and throw lava balls at the enemy. Yes, you heard that right. You could throw lava balls at the enemy. There's also a ground pound shockwave attack for killing enemies in an AoE around you. And honestly, I kind of just forgot this ability existed through most of the game. Later on, you'll get an upgrade that allows you to increase gravity, hit an enemy dead on, and they'll explode into a pile of gore from the increased pressure. It's also used to create cover positions, but these are few and far between and don't amount to anything more than just hitting the left bumper on a highlighted object, and it's always when there's a turret guarding the path forward. Instead of being able to grab objects, the high gravity mode allows you to instead activate a shield that can prevent damage from being taken. How that fits into high gravity powers is beyond me, but you get this upgrade so late into the game that the plot has already jumped the shark, so why not? But I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll cover the story in a minute. Because this technology was brought to Vanguard City by the Lutadors, expect them to pull the same tricks against you. If you get tagged with a high gravity shot, you'll be pinned down in the open, but you can still shoot your rifle last stand style with perfect accuracy. It's more of an annoyance than anything, and man oh man does it get annoying. One of the many recycled bosses is the slave driver. This Harkonnen ripoff piece of shit has a shield that prevents you from hitting him until he uses his high gravity attack. And once he does, and if you successfully dodge it, then you can shoot at him. Be prepared to do this a lot. And he's recycled a few times, so be prepared to do the exact same fight 3 different times during the campaign. If you get hit by a blast of low gravity from an enemy grav link, you'll float in the air for a few seconds. You have the ability to dash around and can aim and shoot, and it's honestly kinda sweet when it happens. While on the topic of low gravity, there are pockets of low gravity throughout the city where you'll enter into zero-G platforming and combat sections. Davis will take cover on debris, and pressing the A button while one is highlighting will send you flying through the air to the next piece of cover. You can also detach from the cover and dash around, but it's pretty limited. It's unfortunate that you don't have full freedom of movement in zero-G, but it still feels like it's maintained the cover shooter gameplay loop at the core of the experience. At least while you're flying through the air, you can aim and shoot at enemies for some very cinematic takedowns. And best of all are the moments where the gravity shifts planes and you're fighting enemies on the walls, the ceilings, the floors, the roofs. Near the end of the game is a section where this really gets used, and it's easy to lose track of where the original ground is with the number of times you're jumping between gravitational planes, fighting on what was once a rooftop before climbing the side of a building. So how does all of that fit into the story? Well, when Leo and Davis go to Davis's apartment and they find his dead wife, they end up getting captured by the Lutadors, and they get taken to a slave encampment where they'll spend the next month digging a tunnel deep into the earth where they uncover a flying robot sentry. Then the pair make their escape and return to Vanguard City to find Layla. Returning to Davis's apartment, they find no signs of his daughter.
Layla! Layla! Damn it! Where are you?
It was then that it dawned on me. My life was over. There was nothing worth living for and nothing worth fighting for. It was all just gone.
Instead, they find a group of resistance fighters to point them toward a camp where the Lutadors are taking the captured children. Fighting through the camp, the duo discover a complex high-tech facility far underground. And after barely catching the train departing from the station, the pair find themselves on an observation platform where they discover that their world is one of many domed cities connected to a massive spaceship known as the Inversion.
What the hell is this? Are we in space? We on some goddamn spaceship? If we're in space, then how did we get here? Did that train or shuttle take us here? Our land. Our world. Where the hell is it? Oh, no. No, look! There! What the hell? Yeah, that's where we live? Our home is some dome on a spaceship?
Distraught, the two push on until they find the Lutadors' ravaged homeworld. Shifts in gravity have caused many great calamities as the world is torn apart and lava flows are abundant. Davis and Leo end up getting captured again and are about to be executed by Kilter, the leader of the Lutadors, when the resistance group shows up to save the day. The two chase Kilter into the core of the spaceship where he initiates a self-destruct sequence. After taking him down and disabling the self-destruct sequence, Davis and Kilter fall into the long dark abyss of the ship's inner core, while Leo provides the final monologue. In it, we discover another twist.
The Lutadors were all but destroyed. Their leader dead, they threw down their weapons and gave up. Those of us that survived were set free to return to what remained of our former lives. As for Davis, He was gone. Just vanished. At least I never had to tell him the truth. Oh, shit.
It turns out Leo found Layla's body at the apartment, but didn't have the heart to tell Davis. And there's a post-credit scene where we also see Davis's hand reaching back up to the platform. And that's Inversion for you. It ends on a sad note with another plot twist. It kind of feels like a punch in the gut to have Davis die and then immediately be told that Leo knew the entire time that Layla was killed. Not that Davis's motivations were much to hold on to anyway, but they were the only driving plot line other than the typical, kill the bad guys. Such a bummer. But hey, I kind of liked it. Caught me by surprise. If you pay close attention during the game, you can actually see that Saber left little breadcrumbs throughout that Leo knew Layla's fate the whole time. After the apartment scene, whenever Davis mentions Layla or looks at her picture, Leo can be seen shaking his head or deflecting the conversation.
Gotta be right on her trail. We'll find her.
He's always trying to maintain Davis's hope though. As for the Lutadors, well, it's never explained why they're such barbaric warriors or why they speak such broken English. Kiltair kind of just shows up literally right at the end of the game, so he's really not a villain that drives the plot forward. It's unclear what exactly the Lutadors were even trying to do or what the spaceship is there for, who made it, what's the purpose of the domes. It's all just not explained. It's all left to the player to interpret. After Leo disables the self-destruct sequence, the computer says they're resuming their original course and will arrive somewhere within 8,273 hours, or 1 year. So we know that the ship is headed somewhere. There are no human inhabitants on the ship, only the murderous sentry bots. If we assume that the bots and the ship are all well-meaning, like I do, then the ship is headed towards some planet with the hopes of colonizing it, and the domed cities are a means of performing gravity tests before the colonists arrive. The domed city containing Kiltair and the Lutadors malfunctioned many years ago, and they were able to uncover the existence of the Inversion. They grew up to worship the Inversion, as evidenced by the many uses of the logo throughout. Kiltair, as a priest, was able to command the robots and provided the technology to his lieutenants, the bosses that we encounter. When Davis and Leo crashed a party, Kiltair plans to take them all down with him.
I'll never give it up! Not to anyone!
Again, this is all conjecture. We'll never know the true reason behind any of it. There are no text logs or audio logs to be found in the game. In fact, there isn't a single collectible in the entire game. And with Inversion only scoring about a 6 out of 10 and failing to sell that many units, a sequel was never made. Though I suppose there wasn't much of a setup to begin with, aside from the nothing burger of a post-credit scene. All that we're left with is interpretation. And when you leave it up to people needing to use their brain, you can expect a lot of people to hate your game. So let's circle back and answer the main question. Was it worth playing Inversion 13 years later? Yeah. You could pick up Inversion on sale from Steam for about $3 and the game lasts about 7 hours. This game is janky as all hell. The story and the plot are unresolved. The voice acting and the script are terribly crafted. The mechanics grow stale by the end of the game, but it's that perfect level of AA, B-movie levels of jank that I love about gaming. It's a great palate cleanser for all the AAA garbage that we've been conditioned ourselves to focus on. The plot tries to have some sort of intrigue with the sci-fi spaceship twist, and there's an emotional tug at discovering that Layla was dead the whole time. But the gameplay is solid and serviceable, the gravity mechanics are enjoyable, and it doesn't overstay its welcome, other than the recycled boss fights. It's not going to be your forever game. It's not going to be a game that you replay throughout the years. It's the kind of game that you pick up, you play it for a week after work or school, you enjoy your time with it, and you move on. And then months or years later down the road, you'll see it in your Steam library, or you'll spot the cover on a shelf and you'll think, I remember playing Inversion during that point in my life. Those were good times. So with that, we'll grant Inversion a final review score of
We got some goddamn spaceship?
out of 10. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, click the like button, subscribe for more, and support the channel by becoming a channel member for only $1 a month. If you've got a classic overlooked game or hidden gem that you'd like to see me cover, leave a comment below. With that, I'm Ice Cold Snake. I'll see you next time.